Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring you another video for The Walking Dead countdown to the start of Season 6. And this video is going to be my other predictions video for death predictions that I think will happen in Season 6. And this is for Rick's group. So these are individuals from the original, Rick's group that I think might die in Season 6. This can be based off the comics, TV show, things along those lines. So I will do this video. If you guys do not want to be spoiled in any way, shape, or form, whether it's from the comics, from the TV show, anything, I will be using material from all of those sources to do this video. So if you do not want to be spoiled in any way, stop watching the video now because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay. So, looking at Rick's group versus Alexandria, individuals dying, one of the things that you have to look at is like Alexandria residents dying would be for a couple of different reasons. One, because we already have a big cast and we need to cut some people out because we can't focus on everybody. And we have new characters coming in all the time, with Heath and Denise and Carter coming in. That's a lot of people to juggle, and that's a hard thing to do. Another reason is because it would drive the rift between Rick's group and Alexandria further apart. We may see some struggles happening between this community in Season 6, and I think that having Alexandria residents die would make more and more people want to fight against Rick's group, and we'll see how that turns out. But for Rick's group, most of the reasons why people would die in this group would be, one, because it would affect other individuals in the story. They are the focus of the story. So if people die, then it would be to affect other survivors. Another reason would be for shock value, which I think we may see a shocking death in this season. And I think that, we may see quite a few characters die. My prediction for the first half, I think that we'll see at least one character from Rick's group die in the first half of Season 6. Who, I'm not sure, but it would not surprise me if there would be one death from that group. In the second half, I could predict maybe another one. I don't think we're going to see as many as there was in Season 5, but we just have to wait to find out. But the individuals that I think may die in Season 6 are the following: Morgan, Glenn, Carol, Tara, Abraham, and Gabriel. Obviously not all of them will die, but I could see them orchestrating things in a way that, maybe one or two of them might. I'm going to start out with Gabriel. Obviously Gabriel at the end of Season 6 is not our favorite character. He betrayed Rick's group. He's, complained the whole way through, and he basically told Deanna that they weren't good people. So they're obviously not going to be very happy with him. And how that's going to resolve itself, I'll be very interested to find out. And, he really has had suicidal tendencies ever since, near the end of the season. We saw that in him. That he tried to get himself eaten by that walker. He tried to get Sasha to shoot him. And you know what? He may still have those feelings going into Season 6. Would not surprise me. A couple of different things with Gabriel. One is that, well, the actors had some legal problems recently. Seth Gilliam was, arrested for driving under the influence. And sometimes your legal problems can result in your dismissal from a show. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen because Scott Wilson also had that happen to him, the guy who played Herschel. But, we can't rule that out, that might play a factor into it. Another factor is just that Gabriel really doesn't have a lot of story later on in the comics. This is really, where his story has some kind of a role. But after that, all he's really doing is just, looking over funerals, and he's here and there, but he doesn't really do much. And it would not surprise me if they would kill his character off because of the fact that there's just really nothing that they're doing for him. Now, Robert Kirkman may have some big, huge plan for him later on, but Unless they do something really important to him in season 6, I would not be surprised if they killed him off. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Also looking at that is Tara. um, I like Tara. I really do. And, I would love to see her survive as a character because she is one of my favorites. I really enjoy her. I love her perspective. And I love her, funny comments that she makes. I really think she has that unique perspective that you don't see in other people. And I admire her for that. I really do. But one disadvantage that she does have is she's not a comic book character. And that can, influence whether you live on the show or whether you don't. Looking back, you know, around these times in the TV show, you look at characters like T-Dog, you look at characters like Bob, Noah, and Beth kind of, but she was based off of Billy. So, but those characters were not in the comics. And even if they were, like with Bob, Bob was part of Woodbury. He was never a part of Rick's group. So that, to me, can influence whether you live or die on the show, because it is a lot easier to kill a character off if they're not a part of the main group. Because it's really, you're just inventing story at this point for them, which can be a good thing. But, she doesn't really have, the status that Daryl does. And Daryl and Sasha are really the only other exceptions other than Tara. So again, it would not surprise me if, just based on the fact that she is just a person for the TV show and not from the comics, that they may write a character death in for her. I hope it doesn't happen. I do like the character. I really hope Tara survives, but again, you can't ignore that when it comes to the past with other characters that were not part of the comics who also died. So I can't ignore that, and I can't rule out that that won't happen to Tara. Looking at Abraham, with Abraham, his character has definitely been very interesting and very prominent in seasons 4 and 5. We've seen a lot of change in him, where he has realized that, his actions of being, too rough, too on the go, could have gotten people hurt or killed. So we have seen him, change a little bit as a character. Now, again, as this video is a spoiler, video the whole way through, I'm just going to give another warning, a big spoiler coming up. Abraham does die in the comics. He dies in volume 17, when they run into the Saviors, and one of the Saviors named Dwight shoots him with an arrow and kills him. Now, Abraham's death is very random in the comics. And, one of the things with deaths on the TV show is, unless you are somebody who's not prominent, you can't just kill a character off like that. If Abraham dies the same way in the TV show that he did in the comics, I think that's going to make a lot of people mad, me in particular as well. I feel his character deserves a lot more than that. And I would not be surprised if they would change that. Abraham does have a lot of connections to various different survivors, and I think that his death would devastate Rosita, and it would also potentially make Eugene change as well, because you still see that Eugene still teeters back and forth between being brave and being a coward. And, I think that if he, sees that he did something again that caused somebody to die, unlike where he just injured Tara, and I think about that with Tara and Abraham, that either one of them dying could make Eugene become a lot stronger of a character, to make him more into the character that he is now in the comic books. So I would not be surprised if, Abraham gets, eaten by walkers or something different happens to him in order to save somebody, and that might be Eugene. We may see that happen. And we also have, reports from the set that, Abraham was potentially bitten by a walker in the story. So we'll see what happens, but I would not put it past them to kill Abraham off in season 6 because again, I think it does have to happen in a different way than it does in the comics, and I feel like it would affect various different characters in the story. Looking a little bit at Carol, I find myself more and more thinking, potentially the other way. Because I predicted that Carol was going to die in season 5, and I was absolutely wrong. And I'm glad that I was wrong, because I do like Carol. I have enjoyed what they have done with Carol. And I think a lot of us have as well, where we have really enjoyed what they've done with the character, changing her a lot from the way that she was in the comics. I mean, in the comics, Carol's dead now. And, the way that they have changed her character so much has just been very, very great. I absolutely credit the writers and Melissa McBride's performance as well. That being said, though, one of the things that I always get concerned about with her character is, the fact that she is dead in the comics. Will there eventually be a point in time where they realize we have nothing left? And again, I do worry at times about Carol's character because, will her methods really be acceptable in Alexandria's world or not? I'm not sure. I really do think that word that she, threatened Sam will get out, and how people are going to react to that, I'm not sure. Or how widespread it's going to be. I mean, I think that Jesse will find out, and I think that maybe Jesse will understand once she realizes that Carol was also abused. But, I think that it's very possible that, Carol may run out of story. And when that happens, will she be as interesting or not? I'm not sure. And again, I think that it's very possible that she may take the place of another character as the person being killed by Negan. I think it's very, very possible that Carol would, have Negan kill her instead of somebody else. She would say some kind of a smart aleck remark to him. And again, maybe just realizing, all the sins of her past, maybe catching up to her. That's a possibility. But again, I don't want to see that happen. I'm just saying that it may. And with Carol, I could also see them doing something else with her character, where she may become a leader at some other community at some other time, rather than some other character. That we will get into more when we get to that part of the story. But I could see that also happening with Carol, that storyline would happen to her, and that she may become that leader, and that she may become somebody more important. So I will not rule that out. And again, if they do that with Carol, great. If Carol lives throughout the rest of the show, I will be happy. But, that's something that we are going to have to see as we go along in the story. Morgan. With Morgan, there are a lot of different possibilities here. Obviously the role is going to be different than it was in the comics, because in the comics, Morgan comes back into the story at a very random time, after the prison falls. He's, very unstable, very mentally unstable, a little bit insane. And, that does have an impact on the story. The other thing, too, is that Morgan does die very randomly in the comic books. He does die in volume 14. He ends up getting bitten by a walker. Michonne cuts his arm off. And then, they take him in to get treatment, but it's too late. He does die from blood loss, maybe the infection, a combination of both. And Michonne has to put him down. I think that it's very possible that Morgan will die within the first half of season 6. One of those reasons is because Lenny James is a very busy actor. He's not like everybody else who is committed to Walking Dead only, or they at least are able to work in time. I mean, I think it's very, very possible that Lenny James may be working on something else, that he may only be around for the first half of season 6. Plus, I think his death would have a big impact on a lot of characters. It may see Rick, turn around a little bit and become more of a leader that we may want to see him become. Somebody who is still cautious, who is still, not going to trust people and will lead people very effectively, but that he will become a little more, mentally stable himself, and that he will become a very, good leader, somebody that we see in later volumes of the comics, that Morgan's death may influence him to become like that. Another thing is for Michonne. I really do wonder, and if you watch my video about Morgan and Michonne, you might understand this a little bit more. But if Morgan dies and and Michonne and him got together, that would definitely devastate Michonne. Could possibly make her become more emotionally withdrawn, like she is in the comics. And another possibility is that we may see Michonne not take action, and as a result, Morgan dies and she regrets not taking that action. So I think there are a lot of possibilities that we might see with her, and with Morgan's death potentially happening. Now, again, they may decide to keep Morgan around longer. I would not be disappointed with that, but just based on a lot of those different factors, I would not be surprised if Morgan does die in the first half of season 6, within the first 8 episodes, because of just all those circumstances. But we'll see. And finally, Glenn. For people that are big comic book fans, there is a scene coming up within the story, and what makes it even more alerting is another spoiler I just want to warn people about. For episode 16 of season 6, they did a casting call for somebody who really does sound a lot like Negan, which I'll do a separate video on. So what ends up happening to Glenn in the comics is Glenn is killed by Negan, because Rick's group fights against the Saviors. They kill several of them, and eventually Negan and basically a big, huge group of the Saviors come out. They surround Rick's group that was going to the hilltop, and they line him up. And Negan, just basically gets out and asserts himself and says, "Hey, I'm the leader. I'm the top guy around here. You guys killed, some of my people. And as much as I don't want to kill one of you, I have to set an example and I have to send a message because you guys screwed up." So he basically just walks up and down the line, picks Glenn, and with the metal baseball bat with the barbed wire around it, Lucille, he beats Glenn to death. I think that it is very, very possible that Glenn will die that same way. One, it would be worthy for his character. That's the thing with a lot of these characters, especially ones that are older, in the show that were from season 1. I mean, if you're going to kill them off, you need to have, first, a darn good reason to do it, and 2, it needs to absolutely be impactful not only for the audience, but for the survivors as well. And that death in the comics was shocking, and it upset a lot of people in the comics, and audience members in general as well. So I think that Glenn is worthy of that death. If he has to die, that would be how I would want it to happen. And again, Glenn's death would absolutely affect a lot of people. Maggie in particular, because she lost her father in season 4. She lost Beth in season 5. To lose the last person in her life, Glenn, in season 6, would definitely take an interesting turn for her character. And I think that it would also affect Rick. And it would also just go to the core of everybody in the group. Because really, Glenn's one of the new moral compasses. And I think he always has been. The fact that he didn't kill Nicholas in that last episode shows he still clings to the old world. He still wants to see a good world, one that, everybody can live in with harmony, and that by killing people and by doing these terrible things, that they may not be able to come back from that. And Glenn sees that. And Stephen Yun said that in his interviews. That's why Glenn didn't do it. And it makes sense, but that also definitely puts Glenn in a very tough position because, that's one of the things that Walking Dead does. By killing the more humane characters, you leave ones that, are willing to take that next step. And with us going into a very dark time, I think, in season 7, if that's the way the story is going to go, killing Glenn off would definitely make it a very dark season, and it would definitely have a big impact on the show. So I think it's very, very likely that we may see Glenn take that death, and that it does, go with the story. It goes exactly with the comics, and that it is Glenn that will die because of Negan. So we'll see what happens. I think that there are a lot of different possibilities here, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you guys have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, please do not be afraid to suggest them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.